Good evening. Still too many slides and never enough time. So, we're giving people ownership of their data. Why? You will know this. Martech, Luminscape, lots of companies hoovering up data. Daily Mail, 84 different tracks on their website. 2 years ago, it's about 600 now. Wi-Fi, hoovers up data. It's not free, it costs your data. Facebook, back in 2012, 1,200 pages of data. God knows how much now, largely because they're collecting emotional data and how you feel, what you're up to. Using that to psychoanalyze 13 to 18-year-olds, working out when they feel the most vulnerable, selling that data to advertisers. Tinder, 800 pages of data on every user, so that feature that selects the best photo of you is actually done through AI to work out what gets the most right swipes, but think about the amount of processing they're doing on your data to do that. Google Home, who accidentally listened to you without you realizing, and Google insisted it was an erroneous error until you look back 5 years, and actually the Street View cars were hooping up MAC addresses through an erroneous developer issue as well. SDKs that you embed on mobile apps that when you as a user give permission to a normal mobile app to save a photo, this SDK jumps in, applies machine learning to all of the images on your phone to process them, then uploads all of that data into the advertising cloud without you realizing. MaterMind at the US University has just built a service that you can put a laptop on, and by resting your palms over the keys, he can tell you what keys you're about to press before you even press them, and as you start to type and move your hands around, he can tell you what keys you're going to press next before you've even pressed them based on the redistribution of weight. And I thought that was bad enough until I saw this at a White Hat conference a few months ago. Apparently now, just from the battery in a device, they can tell every single key that you've ever pressed on your device, just through the microscopic differences in what usage in your battery. So data is being collected everywhere, and unfortunately, any company that says they can stop data being collected or any regulation that purports to be able to stop that is farcical. But more importantly, in the context of AI and machine learning, data is not important. It's the intelligence that results from data that is the important thing. And so when you read about Cambridge Analytica shouting about the fact they've deleted the data, no one gives a shit because they've still got enough intelligence to do what they want to do anyway. Take Google DeepMind from an economic point of view. If the value of an AI is determined by how intelligent it is, which comes from the data it can train itself on. When the NHS gives 1 million patient records to Google DeepMind, it's $50 million more valuable. 5 years' time, cures cancer in part because of that data. It's now $100 million more valuable. They sell the cure to a pharmaceutical company for $500 million, who then sell it back to the NHS for $1 billion. Who pays for the NHS? It's you. So all of this data that these systems are using to train themselves on, to be more creative, to become more interesting, are actually fundamentally undermining the economy. But more interestingly, when you think about it from a kind of societal point of view, everyone I'm sure has seen this film where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with artificial intelligence. Because the AI knows more about him than he knows about himself, and he's lonely, so he feels better about his life because of it. Let's put that into the context of bouncy castles. Advertising industry, holy grail of advertising is effectively not just to be able to hit you at the right time once you want something, but to actually convince you to want that thing in the first place, build the demand, and then fulfill the demand. So in the ideal scenario, AI in the advertising industry would be the one to actually decide whether or not I buy this bouncy castle. I don't want a bouncy castle, but in theory, if you know enough about me through the processing of the data, you can not only make me want the bouncy castle, you can also then sell it to me at the right time. Take Tinder with its 800 pages of data on every user. The idea here is not that it's going to actually be the one to decide who you will now go on a date with, but they can manufacture the serendipity of where your image appears in a sequence of images, such that they can now create the serendipity to choose who you will end up on a date with, and therefore who you love and who you hate. So that's all fun and games, but when you look into the future, if a system already knows enough about you without ever having to have known you itself, take IBM Watson in 5 years, if it can look at your face and determine you have a heart disease just by the way it's been trained to analyse the capillaries in your eyes, at what point did you ever have to share your medical data in order for it to make that determination? You didn't. That's the kind of foundation of machine learning. So actually, where is consent in this? Because you don't give it permission to analyse your data, it already knows you before you know it knows you. So at that point, how do you tell it to tell you that you've got a heart disease? You can't, it's a paradox. In order for you to tell Watson to tell you, you first have to know Watson knows, but if you know Watson knows, why do you need it to tell you? So therein lies the paradox of AI and consent, and in fact, a film like Her very easily becomes a film like Minority Report. It's just a question of who is in control of the intelligence that then affects your life. So fortunately, Europe, good old Europe, has come up with a few different regulations and directives, GDPR, NIS, PSD2, e-privacy, blah, blah, blah. And that now creates an opportunity to re-empower people to have more control over their data, to kind of protect against this future scenario. So what we're creating is a firewall for people. Sounds big, sounds grandeur, but effectively it protects the most valuable thing in your life, which is your brain. It's the thing that makes you, you. But more simply, think of us as like the Visa of data. We enable you to transact your data between different products and services in a safe and secure way. So we've built an app designed for 16 through 30-year-olds, ideally. Download it, register, they own the data, we never sell the data, but we ask them questions, simple swipe card questions. Every time they answer a question, they get paid. Then through building up that understanding of the value of their data and the trust in relation to the app, we ask them to connect external data, Gmail, Spotify, location, etc. And every time they connect external data, they also get paid. So now, from an advertising industry point of view, instead of worrying about third-party aggregate anonymized data that you've done some fancy crap machine learning on, actually you've got first-party identifiable, low-latency, high-resolution data that the user now has control of. So we can actually put the right brand in front of them at the right time, but in a way they now have the entirety of control over, and of course, guess what, when they watch that piece of content, they also get paid. But, going back to that Visa of data, all those different data sources are now being unified through one single point, that is the People.io interface. It's the API of you. But let's go back a little bit from where we launched the app. So we launched the app last year. Since we launched it, we've had about 120 million questions answered in the app. We get 98% view completion on ads that are shown in the app, 15 to 30% click-through rate, which is unheard of, I guess. We had lots of good user reviews. We're trending in the App Store above Love Island, thank God, just below Tinder, unfortunately. Lots of good press, recognised at the NASDAQ, do a lot of government advisory work. So we thought, good times, let's go and buy a yacht and chill the fuck out. And then we launched some features and we fucked it all up. Typical life cycle of a startup, I kid you not, is you kill stuff all the time. The problem we had was we were slightly too early, brands were slightly too slow, and GDPR just came a little later than we thought it would. So the problem we had was we'd acquired 130,000 users in the UK within the first 6 months. We got them engaged, we got them doing stuff, we went to the brand was like, why, I don't get it. Why do people need control of their data? Now, of course, every week we get brands coming to us saying, oh, by the way, yeah, we realise GDPR is actually going to screw up our data policy. So aside from hitting my head on the desk every day, we've now focused on how we solve that with brands. It relies on brands to understand the value of actually giving people control. So we built a product. This was the POC that we did for a big fast food company. Probably on there somewhere. Anyway, the idea of a product is to actually, with the UK's largest Gen Z millennial research panel. So 130,000 users in the UK. Makes us the largest panel, and what we do from a research point of view is actually help brands understand the things that make a person the most different from an average consumer. So instead of telling you 72% of people that love Burger King go out once a month, how do you even talk to those people? What makes those people? How do you engage them? So we built that. It's a full SaaS platform. I'm the worst salesman in the world, which is why we should probably hire a salesperson. I like talking about how the future's going to end. But we've got this SaaS platform. As a brand, you can log in, ask people one question, and just through one question, we can analyse over 1 billion data points. And then in an hour, we spit out a report where you can now actually cross-analyse across your brand and your closest competitors the things that make your consumers the most different. We can also spit out a list of all of the locations in the UK, whether it's retail locations, whether it's out-of-home media to buy, all of the best places to conquest your closest competitors, whether at a product level or a brand level. And we can also then give you segmentation audiences to help you cut through in the market. So if you think about someone that likes Love Island, which I never like to think about, we can tell you the things that actually make a person that likes Love Island and your brand the most different from an average consumer. So within the space of an hour or so, you can go out and actually buy a lookalike audience that isn't just following everyone else. We've also got a Slack bot for it, and there's an Alexa skill, so we call it our Creative April. So you can effectively talk in Slack and say, hey, we called it Kate, it's the parent company. Hey Kate, what's the difference between someone that likes Visa and MasterCard? We spit out some answers. And we've also got a hell of a lot of tech behind it. But the idea, for anyone that's kind of curious about fun stuff, is actually building products and services on top of that. Imagine all of the data in your life now being unified through this Visa-style interface. The products you can create from an Alexa point of view. One of the biggest problems with Alexa and all these other devices is they first need to know you before they can create a service for you. So any smart developer that's creating a cool, innovative product, their barrier to entry in the market is they haven't got a data source to power that skill. Our API does that. Our Alexa skill took 2 days to build. Our interns are the ones that build the skills that sit on top of our servers. So I used to finish up with a kind of talking about fridges, but I'm bored of that now, so we'll use Plato. So the interesting thing about Plato is when he describes self. Self, in its traditional form, is that the things you've done before are what make you who you are today, and who you are today will determine what you do tomorrow. Now, unfortunately, in the world of machine learning, as we've heard from the IBM example, what you've done in the past, they don't really care about. An ML platform looks at who you are today, identifies the patterns of now to determine what you'll do tomorrow. So when you look at the fundamentals of human rights, and the right to privacy and the right to not be surveilled, how does that actually work anymore? What is privacy? How as a brand do you establish trust in a world where actually you've already made conclusions about a person before that person has ever needed to share anything with you? And I had a big fallout with a friend recently, and what was really interesting about it, like my solution to it was actually to write a pitch deck to solve the friendship, because I have 0 EQ, so I thought pitch deck would solve it. But the interesting thing is, I was kind of thinking through, is are no longer controlled by you because you're not the one that's sharing the information to enable that decision to be made. As a consumer, your relationship with the brand has to be based on the trust that that brand is looking out for you. And you will align to brands that you believe care the most about your best interests. But what's interesting about that is you first need to understand the truth behind what that brand's interests truly are. And that's a really interesting place to be, because we're already in a post-trust environment. And trust now has to revert back to, does that brand care about what you believe in? And that cannot be at a homogeneous level with the big 5 tech companies. So creativity in AI has to be based on, is this not just what you enjoy, but is this what's in your best interest? And we believe that all of that starts by giving people ownership of their data, so they at least have a say in the stage that will get to the next phase. Anyone wants to join the beta, the chatbot or the Insight platform, drop me an email. We would love to invite you all on it. There is no cost to be in the Slackbot beta. We can post it in the WhatsApp group as well. Please get in touch. There's lots of cool stuff, and that is what we're up to. Thank you very much.